Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Emergence. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, picking up right where the winter/fall finale, where the last episode left us at, and obviously Joe was working with Brooks and the FBI, trying to track down Benny and Piper, but to no avail, because she's only been gone 8 hours, and then it's like, no, we'll find her. The only thing they found at Benny's place was a jacket. And so it's like, what's also interesting, because obviously there was the hotel he was staying at, but there's actually a place that actually had his name on it and stuff like that. Because obviously this whole situation hurts the most, because for Joe, it's like she trusted him, and it's like this happened. Because it's a sad thing, like Benny's been by her side since this entire thing. It's like she met him all, and it's so interesting because when she first met him, she didn't trust him as much, but like they've been through so much together, and that's kind of her pal. I won't even lie to you, there was a part of me thinking like, oh, there might be a little bit of a Joe and Benny situation going on. Just because it seemed like, depending on how the whole Alex and her situation, that's complicated. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But it's kind of crazy to think, Benny betrayed her like that. Obviously, we kind of get that feeling he has his reasons, but once again, other stuff we'll kind of get to. But then we hard cut to 8 weeks later. Not 8 weeks. I said, 4 weeks later. It's like it's been a month, and obviously we see that Joe is like tirelessly looking, trying to follow whatever lead, because Brooks had looked into Benny, but Benny's records only go back 15 years. And I'm like, okay, now that, as audience-wise, it's like, okay, so that gives us a time frame of whatever Benny's situation is, whether he's the first of these, whatever Piper is. Piper isn't the first. Obviously, Benny might be, maybe him and Helen. Maybe there's like a generational thing of like, maybe they were built first, maybe some existed before them. That's the big question, so... But that's what kind of immediately caught my attention, was when Brooke said that. But obviously, these past 4 weeks, she's been looking into everything she can about Benny as any shape or form to try to really find out anything about him. I mean, truth be told is, and it's actually kind of sad when you actually think about it, the only person that would actually know anything about him was his friend April, and she's dead. Like, she's one of the few people that goes back at least sometime with Benny, which that also brings that storyline into question. I mean, because that also shows you, like, Benny's not a bad guy because he had a friend like April, but it seems like it kind of makes sense because he's connected to, was that group's name Splinter? Like, that group that's the one that was destroying all those, Auger, industries, buildings, destroying basically, Kindred's company and just places connected to it and stuff like that. Regardless, like I said, I'm going on a tangent and stuff like I said, we'll kind of circle back to that. But, obviously there's no leads, and obviously she's not sleeping, Mia's not sleeping, because let's not forget, it's like this isn't just some like random little girl that came into their lives. It might have started off as that, but it's like she's part of the family. For Joe, Piper being missing, it's like Mia being missing. That's like her daughter's out there. For Mia, it's like my sister's out there somewhere, and even Mia's kind of losing hope. Even even Joe is, because obviously it's like Brooks is being told because I guess because of the nature of everything, it's like he came down there to investigate one thing, and now it's another investigation. It's like, I guess missing kid doesn't qualify as like an FBI case. I thought it would. Well, no, I think it's a local thing until it crosses state lines. Then I think it becomes an FBI thing. But so for now, it's like it's up to local cops like Joe to kind of deal with it. And obviously, Brooks has stayed around the whole 4 weeks. He was trying to stay longer to kind of help Joe out. But there was that moment. It's like, Joe, they what was it, in New York or something like that? There was a body kind of matching Piper's description, and obviously they look at the photo. You can tell just by the reactions, because for one, we as the audience know Piper wouldn't be dead, because obviously Benny has no intentions of hurting her. They're the same, like. He can't, there's a reason behind it, but he would never hurt her because, he's grown attached to her, not just as who he was, being, Benny, but also just whatever their situation is. There's a connection there, so he'd never hurt her. But obviously Joe and everyone else doesn't know that. So when they're looking at this, they're looking at the picture, you can see it on her face of like, luckily it's like, it's not Piper, but it's still the thing of like, that could have been Piper. Also, whatever they saw, it was a little girl, and it's like, even though that wasn't my little girl, it's still heartbreaking to know, because it shows you there's evil in the world. I mean, just, whatever the circumstances may be, that was a little girl that died, and it's just kind of like, just sad to think about, especially while you're looking for your little girl, like for her, that's so heartbreaking, And it's like, that's the thing for Joe. It's like she even told Alex that she was like, "I'm losing hope," because the fact of the matter is there was no clues to know where Piper was, you know. And because even Alex is like, I don't know what to do for Piper. I don't know what to do for this entire family. Like, how can I really help you guys? Like, there's nothing he can really do to or say to kind of help Mia, to even help Joe. But then they get that message on the TV, which we saw that before. Like, Piper saw that like earlier in the season, like the TV and stuff like that. So it's like, it seemed like that was her trying to send a message, I would assume. But then that begs the question, like, who sent her those messages all that time ago? Was that Benny and Helen or someone else? Because what's interesting, though, is obviously this reinvigorates, Joe be like, no, we finally got a clue, so we got to follow some things. I love that she tracks down Brooks. And I love that whole thing of like, she's like, oh, so is that a yes? He's like, I didn't say yes. She's like, you're going to think about it, and then you're going to say yes. It's actually kind of super cute. Like the man, like I said, the actress who plays Joe, I like what she brings to the role, just like her mannerisms and stuff like that. Especially if she was like, you're going to think about it, but then you're going to be like, yes. So she walks away. Just tell me when it's an actual yes. It's like, I love what she brings to the character. Like I said, just her mannerism and just her energy. But it's interesting because they end up looking into it, and it turns out that signal, because there was no like, in the town and everything, there was no like records of like a blackout at their house. Yeah, it's like, yep, it happened. Me, Alex, and Mia saw. So like, what is that all about? It turns out there was a signal sent from a satellite down directly to them, but that satellite like transmitter or whatever got burned out, and even him being like a $400 million satellite is literally worthless now. So it's like, so I guess like Piper like supercharged it to make sure that the signal would get to her, whatever message was trying to be sent across, or maybe the transmitter was destroyed as a means to stop the signal from going through anymore. Maybe not. We'll kind of have to wait and see. But obviously following this signal, obviously Joe decides to go off with Brooks to figure this all out. I love that like Alex is like, oh, I'm only just hearing about Brooks is going with you. And like the whole Mia bringing her all these toys for like Piper. It's like, no, I told you to pick one. And it's like, oh, and they hug each other. And Mia's like, go ahead and find her and bring her back, okay? And I love Joe being like, yeah, thanks for like those 5 seconds of love you gave me, but okay. I thought that it was super adorable. I also love that she left Chris in charge, and Chris was like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah, because Joe's been so focused on this, a lot of stuff fell to the wayside, and obviously a lot of the stuff that, she would kind of be looking after, that would fall under her jurisdiction of just handling stuff as chief. Chris has kind of been taking care of it, because he's like, yeah, I know, what you've been up to and what you're dealing with, so I thought that was kind of a neat element to it, and just like Chris, trying, his best. It's just kind of like, oh, he's like, oh, okay, you're leaving me in this position. She's like, no, you got this. And just, I love how just unsure, a little unconfident Chris is. And I love he went and investigated. That dude was like, see, Joe said that exact same thing to me last week. Just, showing that, hey, you cut out for this job, kid. I just thought that was kind of a neat element, which that led to a clue, which him and Alex end up investigating and stuff. I thought was kind of interesting. It's like, no, we got to go do it. But I love Chris. No, but this is my first day on the job. I don't want to do anything illegal. It's like, yeah, but do what Joe would do, and Joe would already know what's inside that box because it was magnetic and it pulled on his keys. And so obviously he spent time. Obviously he knows all this stuff that's really going down. So he's like, okay, I've seen this before. So him and Alex investigate it, and they find some like magnetic device. It's like some thing in the form of a ball, but it's kind of liquidy because like it seems like it's moving and active. It doesn't seem like it's fully solid, and it's floating, yet it has a magnetic pull. So either because we know whatever it is connected to Piper's abilities, it has a magnetic charge, like obviously her ability, because remember the car from the car crash, like that her quote unquote parents were kidnapping in, like there was that magnetic charge left behind. So maybe whatever's in that actually helps make the AIs. Maybe it plays a part in being what they are, or maybe it's connected to their powers in some shape or form. Because that's what I was kind of wondering too, like, are we dealing with 100% like AI, or are we dealing with aliens? Like, did they crash on this planet years ago or something like that? Because once again, Helen had said the only reason why I'm blanking on his name, Home Dude was able to make Piper is because he stole something that wasn't his to begin with. Like, it was there. So that it made it seem like, okay, she was their experiment first, or at least he took the blueprint from what they worked on and made Piper, or it could be a thing. Because that's the thing, like, because then you'd have to beg the question, well, who made Vinny and Helen? But then I'm like, it has to be a thing of we might be seriously dealing with aliens, especially because this is technology that's kind of unheard of. So it's kind of like, I mean, to be fair, Emily made a lot of stuff for, Kindred, and so did Home Dude that ended up down. Like I said, I'm blanking on his name now, but it's like, I don't know. I'm curious to see kind of what we're dealing with. I'm so curious to see ultimately, I mean, it might not be anything, but I'm curious, like, especially because Emily spent so much time trying to destroy, Piper because, oh, you didn't love me, to find out there's so much more to this. I'm curious to see, because in the end, Emily might be necessary because obviously she knows about Piper and stuff like that. She's actually the only person alive that knows about that whole situation now. So she might be a means to end up helping track down Piper. So Joe might end up having to go to her later on. Like I said, I'm getting way, way, way ahead of myself, but the whole situation has got me interested. I do like that basically, like, we got like 3 different fronts on this situation, because you have like Chris and Alex being a team, but you also have obviously Joe and Brooks, but you also have Mia and Ed, who are working on something on their own, because obviously Mia is distraught. She wants to help in some shape or form. It's like, at the very least, I want Piper to know she's not she doesn't have to be afraid, like, Mom, that we're looking for her. I don't want her to think that we left her all alone, which Ed was like, the fact is, he saw how distraught Mia was, so it's like he wants to at least be able to help her do something that kind of make her feel like we're doing something. So using a hand radio, they try to record a message and send it out there on all frequencies, which obviously Piper's connected to all this, so she'd get it. Well, later on, they receive some kind of message. It's mainly noise, but then they look at the hand radio thing and they see numbers, ones and zeros, which is like, okay, what is that? I'm assuming it's kind of basically robotic or AI Morse codes, because zeros and ones on when it comes to a computer system, all computer systems are not algorithm, but that's all computers are. They're code of zeros and ones, so it's basically a code. It's almost like computer speak or computer Morse code. So I'm curious. I would assume like you would have to decipher that to figure out what it 100% meant, but I think it would just like be something you have to put into a system to be like, okay, so what do these zeros and ones ultimately represent? So there's that side of things. We did learn a little bit more about Brooks. He's divorced. It's been 10 years, and he was even like, if you ask me, I wouldn't even be able to pick my pick her out of a lineup, because he commented on the fact that Alex and Joe have a very good relationship. I mean, granted, they have their daughter, sure, but it's like you still have a pretty good relationship. So he kind of gets the feeling like, oh yeah, like the divorce is still fresh enough, because they've only been divorced a year. But I thought it was kind of interesting because it's like, because this person that was kind of always there in your life, or a big part of your life, it kind of isn't that supposed to be like that anymore, yet they're still entwined in your life regardless. So it's a very interesting and complicated thing, which obviously my brain started going like, oh, so are we doing like a Joe and Brooks things, especially when everything kind of goes down later on. I'm like, oh, that seems a little, and it's kind of like a yeah, let's get back to things. I'm like, oh, I mean, that's gonna get complicated, because obviously Joe, and like I said, whether they really realize it or not, you can tell Alex still obviously cares deeply for Joe. Like it seems like I said, whatever was there still bubbling to the surface, and I think Joe's kind of feeling it too. We'll see, but obviously they meet that dude named Charlie, and then they start being like, Charlie's acting a little dodgy and stuff like that. I'm like, why is that? I was like, is he helping them out or something? I was like, I didn't get it. And it's like, oh, how long have you owned that place, Charlie? He's like, yeah, 15 years. I'm like, wait a minute, good old Benny, his records only go back 15 years, and it gets revealed that Charlie wasn't one. I was like, I should know, because like I said, it's interesting, because it seems like everyone's history goes back 15 years. So that's why I'm wondering, like I said, did someone make them? And if so, did they escape what happened 15 years ago that let them escape and build these lives? Or like I said, are they aliens? I feel like they would have to be from this planet to know as much as they do. I mean, I guess you pick up on stuff, but it's like, to be able to create these identities that at least go back these 15 years and stuff like that, I feel like they'd have to be born in this world to know enough ahead of time to kind of, be AI. That's why, like, I don't think like I said, not unless we find out they're alien. But regardless, So they do have a lead now. All they have to do, they're trying to track down, Charlie. And I love that whole situation because now Brooks heard all he heard about Piper, but he never saw it firsthand. And seeing Charlie what he is, he's like, he kind of had an understanding of like what Piper was, but it's one thing to hear that, it's another thing to kind of see it. And so for him, it's like, but now it's kind of gets, Joe thinking, because she's like, if Charlie's one, he's got to be the same thing Piper is. But it's like, it goes back 15 years. Could Benny be the same thing? And it's like, oh, that's really, so Joe starts figuring out. And for her, it's like, now she doesn't know who she can trust, because now this turns into a giant conspiracy, because it's like, obviously Benny and Helen aren't the only one. There's at least Charlie, but how many more are out there? I mean, obviously this is going back 15 years. There's plenty others who could just be living a normal life. I mean, she never would have guessed that Benny was. Hell, Emily never would have guessed that Benny was one. Like, Emily and Home Dude spent so much time around Benny, and neither one of them realized that he was just like Piper, the schoolgirl that you made. Neither one of them could tell that Benny was like her too. So how do you tell anyone the difference? So it's like Joe uses that thing to kind of test Brooks, and he's like, really? And she's like, I need to know if I can. And then he tested on her, and she's like, yeah, wrong arm. And it's just like, but like I said, that whole touching arms thing, it's like, let's find Charlie. But he ends up dying, which is also interesting, because even though they're doing these AI things, they are still very human. It seems like they might be, have these abilities, and maybe their brains, and just circuitry wise, they kind of seem like they're a little different. But it does seem like at their core, they still are humans. Like, he got hit by a car, and because he wasn't able to, get the proper medical attention, he ended up dying like any human. Now, what was interesting though, it's like, all right, tell us where she is. And he said, even if I could, I can't. Now, that part of me wonders, is it a situation where he's been reprogrammed to like, I can't let them know what I know, like maybe stuff connected to Benny, he's kind of programmed not to say, like, maybe, or maybe it's just kind of like whatever it is that Benny and them are like, I'm skipping around, but obviously it seems like whatever they're doing, it's very important. So maybe it's like, I can't tell you because she's so important to what we're doing, and this is bigger than all of that, so I don't know. But it sounded more like, kind of like how Once Upon a Time, well, not Once Upon a Time, it makes me think of like, the Telltale, the Wolf Among Us, how like there was the whole curse thing of like, you can't so I'm wondering, is it kind of a similar thing of like, oh, the curse kind of prevents you from talking about something, so maybe it's like a programming curse almost, like, not really a curse, but that's kind of the best word I can use, but it's a programming thing to prevent them. I don't know what to make of all of that. So, but obviously, like, Joe ends up cutting out that thing. I wonder, is it supposed to be kind of like obviously it acts as a tracker, because that dude tracked it to their house earlier in the season. So maybe it's not just a tracker. Maybe it's also kind of like an ID card. Like, maybe it has like kind of information, it kind of acts like a, like the tracker you would put on like a pet or something, which is like super messed up when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Like, I mean, like, because that means you're almost treating these people like pets, but maybe they do it themselves, or maybe someone. That's what kind of goes back to, maybe there are humans that made them that did this. Like I said, maybe this is like some government, like some rogue government experiment that kind of the government's being super hush-hush about. Regardless, they do end up tracking down, where Charlie had been. And obviously Joe runs into Benny, and he apologizes. But, Joe is like, the fact of the matter, because he's like, you won't shoot me, because he knows who Joe is. And it's like, I know what kind of person you are. You never do that, despite whatever our situation is. But it's like, Joe's like, I saw your friend die, so I know you guys can feel pain and be hurt. So tell me where she is. And Piper proceeds to dismantle her gun with her powers. And she's like, you can't come near me. I don't want to hurt you. And she's like, I know you won't. And Piper, because she did receive Mia's message, tell her I'm not afraid. So it's like, was that her trying to tell Ed as well as Mia to stop looking for me? Or was that her kind of sending a secret message without letting Helen and Benny know? But, maybe because that's the thing, she was with them for 4 weeks. If she wanted to, I feel like Piper would have found a way to kind of reach out sooner. I think it's because she was trying to tell, her, get a message to Joe, but like, don't look for me, I'm okay, what I'm doing is more important. Or like I said, maybe it's a secret thing to kind of keep hush hush from them, making them think like, oh, I'm on their side. But it does seem like it's like whatever Benny and Helen are up to, whatever Splinter is up to in general, because it seems like their whole thing is about like digital stuff, like hence why they're trying to take down like Kindred and stuff like that, because people who use technology for bad, it seems like that's what they're trying to stop. I guess maybe it's like almost a Skynet level thing, but not as negative. Maybe it's just kind of like we're trying to get our freedom back, and maybe Piper being as powerful as she is, maybe she has powers that no one else, maybe Benny doesn't have those powers, maybe Helen doesn't, maybe Piper is very special in that regard. And so, because also she might be the only one of her well, no, because Benny knows what he is and he doesn't, but maybe they all went through the same thing that Piper went through, kind of being able to know what they are without self-destructing or losing who they were, so there's so much to that. So it begs the question, like, what is it that's so important? Obviously, whatever it is on that boat that Chris and Alex found might be connected to all of this too, because it doesn't seem like we're dealing with multiple parties right now. It seems like we're dealing with this splinter group doing whatever they're doing, which Chris did leave his phone there so they can track. And I love Alex being like, I take back all the things I ever said about you, all those things I've said about you. And then you have Chris looking like, what does that mean? What have you been saying about me? But it's a sad situation, because it's like Piper was right there in front of her, and she's telling Joe like she can't go back with her, like she needs to stay. But the point I was trying to make is I feel like she could have left sooner if she wanted to. Like, so it's just the fact that she took now to send out a message. It's like, oh, maybe it could just be like she was only able to get one out now. But I just kept getting the feeling like, no, this is about whatever it is they told her. She's willing to help because I think how Joe helped her, I think because she's growing as a person. So it's like hearing whatever plight that Benny and Helen and their people is in, she's like, I got to help out because you guys are my people too. You're my family. So I can't go back to Joe yet, or maybe not at all, because maybe this is about setting their people free so they're not hunted down by whoever potentially made them, or maybe taking them back home. Like I said, I'm still on this alien thought. Like, I kind of kept wondering about, because at the beginning, like even, before I started watching the show, just based on trailer stuff, I was like, are we going Stranger Things with this, or is she like straight up an alien? I didn't know. So that's why I'm still like, so we're going the AI route, but it's like she still could be an alien, just maybe like an alien AI, So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. And I'm so curious to see where this all ends up taking us into the next episode, because we still got so little answered. And now just even more questions on top of all that. And I'm curious to see what this all means going forward. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.